Master Oogway's iconic line about destiny made most people think about Po directly, but oddly enough, I think that line about avoiding one's destiny, often leading to it, was more about our bitter feline friend. The snow leopard who feels as though the world owes him something. He feels as though he was cheated from reaching his destiny. More on this later. Tai Lung's got that dog in him. Out of all the movies in this franchise, it's hard to say that Tai Lung isn't him. Now I like him for a couple of reasons, mainly because he's everything the Furious 5 are not. He's so cold that Shifu had to band together 5 people that possess one person's abilities. And in all fairness, even when you rally all 5 of them, they can't measure up to Shifu's greatest student. That shows you 2 things. Tai Lung is really skilled, and 2, these 5 are kinda subpar warriors. This man has all the skills they lack, but more importantly, this dude is just a pure menace. Bruh's been having the longest villain arc ever since he felt betrayed by his foster dad. As in, he's been in prison for 2 decades just letting his heart freeze over like Antarctica. Imagine being in complete isolation just thinking about how foul you'll do everyone the minute you escape. The older I get, the more I kinda sympathize with him. TBH, his reasoning is pretty valid. Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
What makes a good villain? Think about it. Bane's childhood was pretty messed up, Lex Luthor's an asshole, Zahir's a radical extremist. The one thing these characters all have in common is how broken they are. At the end of the day, Tai Lung is just a broken snow leopard who once thought life was peaches and roses. But one day everything changed. The day Oogway looked at him and sensed something isn't right. If I'm being honest here, he's not even really a villain, he's more of an anti-hero. That's how I view him. The Cambridge Dictionary would state otherwise, but nobody really cares about the British anyways. Tai Lung is the perfect example of what can go horribly wrong when you believe your life should amount to something and only that one thing. This is the prime example of don't put all your eggs in one basket. More so if you fail to live up to the dream that was sold to you. Then you start to question what does the future hold, and you'll live the rest of your days thinking to yourself that you're nothing but a failure. I think Tai Lung is so great because he's relatable. There's nothing he does based on his belief system that has you thinking he's messed up in the head. Well, that's just how I view it. He wants revenge and he wants the dragon scroll. Can't blame the guy since he had to break bones for years on end just to be told by an old tortoise that he isn't the chosen one. Some may say he's entitled. I don't think so. If you look at the stats, he did have all the traits to be the chosen one. But of course, the oldest dude in the movie has some ancient wisdom that enables him to sense the pureness of someone's heart, blah blah blah, hence Tai Lung's denial from the title of Dragon Warrior. We've seen this before. This reminds me of when Skywalker was denied from being granted the rank master by that Jedi Council, by that old green alien. And we all know what happened because of this. Tai Lung is the perfect example of rejection is only supposed to make you want it more. If you had to go through what he went through, I'm sure your heart would be nothing but a black void. But his story is more tragic than anything. It's tragic because it's a reality for many. The flashback in this film shows a young, hopeful, enthusiastic character, but as the years go by and Oogway's approval never comes around, it leads to nothing but anger and resentment from Tai Lung. Now this brings me back to what I was saying earlier. I think Tai Lung's wrath is a reminder that sometimes the more you try, the less things work out for you. His entire persona is a rather arrogant and prideful one. If you pay close attention to almost all the most infamous villains in media, they possess these traits. Murderer's an all-out asshole. The Joker, well, he's just a nutjob. But you have to ask yourself this big question. Why? Tai Lung knew he was light years ahead of most. His master of the arts is on a level most could dream of. Even after being detained in a cell, upon breaking out he's barely even rusty. This just highlights how menacing this dude really is. See, Tai Lung's whole reason for revenge wasn't 100% out of spite. The anger drove him to rage that had anything and everything to do with the Jade Palace. That's why when he escaped prison, that's the one place he wanted to make sure is wiped off of the map. He hates it so much because it's a constant reminder of his inadequacy to become the Dragon Warrior. That temple is a shrine of his own failure. But the more I think about it, the sadder it gets. Tai Lung doesn't know anything else. His entire life has been punching and kicking for years on end. This is the thing about villains like Tai Lung that makes them so endearing. When a character makes you feel sympathy for them, that's when you think there's something pretty exceptional about them. Think of your favorite villain right now. You probably feel like their philosophy wasn't so bad, right? The older you get, the more you think to yourself, I don't know man, maybe Thanos was right after all. Or yeah, Zahir was kinda a political right-wing extremist, but he is kinda right, just a little bit. His reasoning has to be the most human we've seen thus far. It's hard to accept the fact that sometimes you can try so hard and watch what you feel belongs to you be in arm's reach of someone else. Someone you feel isn't deserving. But by the end of the film, I was kinda left wondering what would have happened to this guy if Shifu didn't push him so hard. If Po managed to become the Dragon Warrior by accident, what could have Tai Lung become? It's interesting how Po's dad never pushed him to become a noodle maker. He wanted him to take over the shop, but he never grilled Po to do so, which is a stark contrast to how Shifu seemed to dedicate his whole life in molding Tai Lung to become what he believed was the Dragon Warrior. Just an interesting observation when you think about it. The only person I see giving your boy a run for his money is Death. Death isn't even really a villain, he's just doing his job, whether we want to admit it or not. So with that being said, there'll never be another villain like Tai Lung.